James, let's go. Good morning and welcome everyone. My name's Nigel. I'm chair of Three Nations working group, Dementia Working Group, and another welcome to one of our webinars. Pleased to see you here. If you're in the lovely weather, remember to stay hydrated and not to stand in the weather till you can't stand no more. Take bottles of water with you. This morning's webinar is given over to the work of DEEP and the opportunities it gives to people with a dementia diagnosis. DEEP are a network of UK dementia voices, but there's much more to DEEP than that. And as always, we have a panel here to help us understand the work of DEEP and where we can support them. I'll just remind you that these webinars rely on you. We need your comments, responses, and questions via the text box, which you'll find at the bottom of your screen. Please use the text boxes because if you hold up your hand, we can't see you. These are monitored. I'll be looking at them. So any questions you have for the panel, I can pass on. And the Q&A box is exactly the same. I would like to remind you that these webinars are designed, produced, and presented by people living with dementia. We can't deal with individual queries, but we'll try and signpost via the text boxes where individual queries may be dealt with. Well, that's enough from me. You'll be pleased to know I will now disappear as I'm handing over to Rachel Niblock, who will chair the rest of the session. Good morning, Rachel.
Thank you very much indeed, Nigel, and welcome to everybody. Already I've seen in the chat box some fellow Deepers, so that's really reassuring to see your names and to say hello. I'd like to thank James and Nigel and all the Deep chums who are part of the Three Nations Dementia Working Group as well for inviting us along today. And I'd like to offer a special thanks to Alison and Lorraine, who have agreed to join me this morning to talk about DEEP and what DEEP means to them particularly. So James, if we could go on to the next slide. Apparently I've got to do a Chris Whitty, and there we go. And the next one, please. So yeah, I mean, very much thank you for the opportunity to be able to kind of share the work of the DEEP network, but also to hopefully encourage cross-pollination across all people who are involved, supporting people with dementia and those people living with dementia as well. Those of you that have been on Zooms with before will know very well about my dog Megan, who will bark in the background, so she just has to say hello. DEEP is often seen as a bit of stepping stone into activism, but we'll touch on that in a bit more detail. If we could go to the next slide. I do feel like Chris Whitty, but I'm not breaking news about COVID. DEEP is a network. It's not an organisation, and it's supported by a really small team of people at Innovation Dementia Community Interest Company. So we have a grant from the National Lottery, which actually runs out at the end of 2023. And if you think about, I guess when you're thinking about network, think of something like being a member of the National Trust or the Royal Society for the Prevention of Hedgehogs or Birds or something. Private joke there with Nigel, who's very concerned about hedgehogs. Is that it's about bringing people together who have are in a similar situation and have varying degrees of interest and interest in taking part as well. As our good friend Mac, who may well be in the audience, says, "You are deep, we are deep, it is our deep." And all the groups that belong to the network are independent. So they might be hosted by an organisation, but it's a real challenge to a lot of organisations and professionals to actually rethink how they facilitate a meeting. So for example, the Alzheimer's Society hosts a few DEEP groups, but sort of leave, and Mac's saying hello, hi Mac, leave their kind of professional role at the door, and then the group becomes about what the group wants to do. So The groups are really diverse and decide their own model and their own agenda as well. Next slide, please. So groups have changed an awful lot over the sort of 10, going into the 11th year now. And groups now often begin with that peer support and the really strong roots in the strong social foundations. And it's amazing when you get a group of people in the room who are facing a similar situation, what happens from that is often seen as magic. And some people within the groups become involved in research or become activists, but not all of them. I'd say that the groups are built in strength, and also the confidence grows from in the groups, and people evolve as being people who are happy to stand up and talk about living with dementia, but very often that is informed also by what they've learned from their peers as well. I'd like to ask Alison and Lorraine to talk about your type of group, and it's particularly interesting because Alison is from Dementia Northern Ireland, and this is a group that is a member-led group, but it's now a registered charity. And Lorraine is a very much smaller kind of group, which has been set up. She set up by herself with the support of the Alzheimer's Society in Darlington. So who'd like to go first? I can't see you, so
I don't mind.
Alison, yeah. So would you like to talk about your type of group?
Yeah, as I say, Dementia and I was set up by 5 people who had a dementia diagnosis. And really why it was set up was because there was nothing in Northern Ireland for people who were in the early stages of their journey. You know, there was a lot for people who were much later on, but it really wasn't what they felt they wanted or they needed. And they campaigned really hard, and thankfully the group took off, and it has grown since then. And we have groups all over Northern Ireland, which are hosted by what would be called an empowerment officer or empowerment development officer, and they sort of facilitate the group. And basically you come together, you meet, and primarily it is peer support. It is where you're given hope after your dementia diagnosis, because you see people who have a dementia diagnosis doing stuff and still involved in things. But it becomes more than that, as well as sort of being very much peer support and people looking out for each other. And, you know, people say after a dementia diagnosis, you make a whole new group of friends who really are true friends and people that you can rely on. But we campaign quite a lot. You know, we sort of will work with local hospital authorities about change that needs to happen, you know, the training that needs to happen for the staff, you know, for, you know, right from, you know, the cleaners, the porters, the nurses, the junior doctors, right up to the consultants and beyond. And the way somebody with dementia needs to be treated and what is needed to make their stay in hospital more effective. We've worked with the police force in Northern Ireland to set up the HERPA protocol. You know, so as I say, yes, it's peer support, and I don't want to undermine that. That is vital, but it is more than that. It sort of is making a change for people who will follow on behind us, and you know, that will make their journey hopefully smoother, and that people will be more aware, and the stigma of a dementia diagnosis will be very much eradicated. And that would be something that we would be aiming for, that people who are diagnosed should not be ashamed and should be able to confidently say and be supported in a way that they need to be supported.
Thank you, Alison. It's fair to say that what has evolved for Dementia NI is establishing a charity and becoming something which is really big. A bit like we were due to be joined by Irene Donaldson from the Stand Group in Scotland as well, but unfortunately she couldn't be with us. But that too has evolved quite rapidly over the last couple of years into becoming a charity as well. Thank you. And Lorraine, who is from Darlington, and you've actually set up your own group. But before before we come to that, there was a question from Peter Clark about what is peer support, which I saw that you responded to in the chat. So do you want to just explain a bit more about peer support?
Yeah, peer-to-peer support is people with dementia supporting people with dementia. For many of us, when we're first diagnosed, we are very lonely. We're left on our own because the support that you get from the NHS, etc., is not what it should be, definitely. So we're very much lost and alone. We have this word dementia hanging over us, and we immediately think of advanced stages of dementia where people are unable to do much for themselves. And we're not like that, but it frightens us. And peer-to-peer support is getting together with people just like ourselves, mainly it can be early stages, it can be newly diagnosed, or just like me, living well with dementia. Still quite capable, but still with our concerns, our higher level of needs than other people. And it's about talking together and supporting one another. It's about getting to realise I'm not alone in this situation. There are loads of people like me. I don't have to be in advanced stages yet. It can be slow. We can get together, we can have fun, we can advise one another about all the things that nobody else tells us about. It's somebody to go to when we're having a problem. I had a phone call last night from one of my group for advice. And that's what it's about. It's about supporting one another.
And so you didn't have anything at all in Darlington, and so you took the bull by the horns and you said, right, I'm going to set one up then. Yeah,
we didn't have anything in Darlington. I volunteer for Healthwatch Darlington and have done for a number of years. And I cornered one of the Alzheimer's Society staff once and said, I want a group for people like me. And she basically turned around and told me there was no need for it. They didn't have the need in Darlington for it. And so I left it for a little while. And then when I got on the Across the Lands group, which is a Zoom meeting every Thursday with the Deep Network, Rachel facilitates it, and Alison and I are on it, and there's a number of others on it. And I realised that I should be starting a group. And I happened to notice on Facebook that a lady from the Alzheimer's Society was starting what they called, it was part of Dementia Friendly Darlington, and she was starting a group in the next village. And I put a comment on Facebook and basically said, oh, we could do with this in Darlington. And suddenly I get contacted by Alzheimer's Society, and Belinda's the Alzheimer Dementia Friendly Darlington community supporter, and she contacted me, and I got involved with her doing walkthroughs of establishments and stuff. And then I said, I want to start a group. And she supported me to start the group by getting referrals from the local mental health hospital of people that were being recently diagnosed. And we started a group in November with, there was 4 people, 2 couples plus me. And I was supported by Belinda and Catherine from Alzheimer's Society. And now we have about 26 people coming every second Thursday. And although Catherine and Belinda attend, it's very much facilitated by us all. I give advice to people. People didn't know about things like attendance allowance, council tax reduction.
Because you've got a background in social care, haven't you?
I've got a background in special needs teaching and social care. So I tend to know all about these kind of things. And that's what I was able to advise on. CEA cards, you know, carers cards, all this kind of thing. And we're very much a social group at the moment. We go bowling together. Our group of us going to the theatre tonight together. We meet in the local theatre in their cafe, and they're very supportive of us. They really are. They gave us some free tickets 2 weeks ago for a show that afternoon, and they just gave us some free tickets. So they're really supportive and want to be involved in making theatre dementia friendly. But we will start to be activists quite soon. The group is so big at the moment. I've started another group and we'll see how that takes off.
So I think you can glean from the last couple of minutes exactly why Lorraine is known as We Fiery Scots, because she's a force to be reckoned with. I'm going to introduce you to a wee film that was made for the Deep 10th Anniversary Festival, and it will show our good friend Dory, who will read her speech that she also shared at the Dementia Congress last year. And I think everyone who's watched it says it seems to sum up the Deep network in bucket loads. So James, if we could go on to the next slide and show the film, please, and hopefully this will work.
DEEP stands for Dementia Engagement and Empowerment Project. We, DEEP, are celebrating 10 years of DEEP this year. And there has been 17 face-to-face celebrations throughout the UK. My name is Dory and I've been involved with DEEP for 7 years. For me, DEEP represents unity, kindness, respect and friendship. And what I hear from my peers all the time is that we meet people from all walks of life who otherwise we never would have met. Because we have dementia, we feel we're in the same boat and we can share with each other, learn from each other and support each other. We find somewhere where we belong. There are many tears along the way, but we must admit they mainly come through laughter. It's extraordinary that people you've never met are like family after a very short time of being together. We breed confidence in each other. We become more confident to talk about things that matter to us. We know we have a right to have our say. Together we can challenge things that are not right. We value each other and we look after each other, and we've got each other. I am DEEP and we are DEEP. We have achieved something extraordinary. We went into lockdown in March 2020 and we connected even more widely through different corners of the country and the world of Zoom. People even learned from using the Zoomettes guide we had created the year before. Deepers were creative, kind and shared so much support through a very dark time. We also lost many friends along the way and groups, and recovery continues to be a challenge, and there is no one single answer. COVID changed all of our lives, but together as a network there is passion. There will be a range of expertise, different ideas and support to help us all. The most unlikely friendships are formed in the most unlikely situations. We are stronger together. The Still Me group in South Wales celebrated 10 years of DEEP. They used trees as a way to represent the DEEP network, based on the saying, mighty oaks from small acorns grow. Tree roots reflect how much goes on beneath the surface and behind the scenes. Their roots knit and weave and reach further than we ever know or see. If there's a tree struggling The other trees around send out their roots far and wide, healing and supporting that tree. How far-reaching the seeds we scatter, grow and are nurtured, nourished and shared. Today we celebrate that network of that magnificent tree, which is deep. We are all unique and wonderful, but together as a deep network, we are a masterpiece.
If we could have the next slide, please. Thank you very much. Every time I see that, I'm kind of more moved each time I see it, I think. I'll have to say that you're going to have an earworm by the end of this session, because thanks to the wonderful Chris Norris, who is hopefully on this webinar, Chris performed the beautiful backing track to that. Alison and Lorraine, I just wonder what your reflections are on seeing that film again.
Yeah, it just sums it all up, doesn't it, really? It's just perfect, and it's lovely to, it was lovely to see all our friends. You know, it's amazing for me that I look at that film and think, oh, how many people do I actually know on this now? I came on during lockdown to the Deep Network and knew nobody. And now we've met so many people in person, and we come on and we support. It's just perfect. It just sums it up completely. So yeah.
Thank you. I'll never forget meeting Alison for the first time in person after having connected for several years over Zoom. It was a very special moment, wasn't it, Alison?
It really was. It's hard to explain, you know, because say you sort of feel that you have got to know people because you are on Zoom, and you build up friendships with people that you've never met. And then all of a sudden, when you see somebody in person and realize they do have legs and they do move around, it's magical. But you've already built up that really strong relationship as well, you know, so you're not meeting strangers, you know, you're meeting people that you really feel connected with. But that film is just perfect, you know, and I think the example of the tree and the roots sums it up beautifully, you know, and everybody does support everybody else. And if you're having a bad time or a real wobble, you know, there's people there to hold you up until you get through that.
Lorraine, and then we'll come to Nigel, because Nigel's popped up, which means that he's got something to say. So we'll come to Lorraine first.
Yeah, when I first when I met Dory in Wales, the first thing she said to me was, "You're so tiny."
You are.
So yeah, it was lovely.
It is lovely.
And I think that I know we've got Maxine is also on watching as well, and Maxine came to us as someone who is kind of a bit all at sea, and has found friendship, but also kind of, I guess, the courage to speak up and to also set up her own group as well. So it's very much about people supporting each other to build that confidence as well, isn't it?
Yeah, very much.
Nigel.
There's a lot of love in the chat box for you all, as you would imagine, and a lot of love this side of the chair, because I started my life in dementia activism through Deep. You know, that slide says it all. This is where I started. There's a couple of questions there. One is from Marilyn Williams from Worcestershire, and she says there should be more support on this in Worcester. Should I start one? ? Would appreciate a discussion on how to do it. So I'll leave it up to you.
Well, just for everybody's benefit, to set up a group, we have a fantastic facilitators guide on the Deep website, which was created by facilitators and members of the Deep network, which gives some top tips. But also we've got we have facilitator Zooms every month, and there's one actually tomorrow, which you can come along to, and other Deepers will tell you about setting up a group. Alison.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is the person who asked the question, are they living with dementia, or are they?
Yeah, she
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Because what I would say to anybody setting up a group is to, to find out from people with dementia, what it is they need and they want, rather than some professionals presuming they know, and the group is set up that doesn't suit, the group of people that are coming into it. So I would say the communication with others is vital, but yes, definitely, groups that offer support and give people hope is a good thing.
There's also a question here from Peter Clark. Rachel initial slide said many groups start with peer support. I'm hoping to start a local group and would be interested in what peer support is available to do so. I'm going up to the meeting in Manchester next month, so possibly I'll get my answers there. I'm sure you will. Looking
forward to meeting Peter from Ammanford in Manchester, where Lorraine and Alison will also be. So it's an opportunity to not only hear from my, what I think, but from what about 50 other people think as well. So looking forward to seeing you.
Yeah.
Lorraine.
When I was setting up the group, I had support from Alzheimer's Society, but looking back, I could have done it myself. And it was contact through the local mental health hospital, where people with dementia are diagnosed. To put out, first of all, you need to find a venue, a local community centre, somewhere you could meet up that's free of charge. And then I made up some posters and flyers, put them up at the venue, hand them out to the local mental health hospital, hand them out to the Alzheimer's Society, get them up in public places, advertising it, get it on local Facebook groups to say you're meeting up, just coffee and a chat. That's what I said, coffee and a chat, and then see what comes along.
And cake.
And cake, absolutely. Yeah, definitely cake is the most important thing. Okay, let's move on to the, so we're on the slide, James, about what the groups commit to. So yes, we were talking about finding the courage to speak up. And I think what's really important about the groups is that all the groups are different, because the group decide what they want to do and what their priorities are, and that might be varied based on the people that are part of the group, their level of dementia, or what's going on in the local community. But basically, it's about engaging and empowering all of your members. And that can be really, really small things as well. And, what we said very early on in the Deep days is that we all have the power to influence and change what happens in our world, in our dementia world. And that could be in our home. We hear so many stories from people saying, my partner has changed since I've been to the group. They'll come back now and they'll talk about something that matters to them. I remember a story once of someone saying that their partner went home and they said, "You've put sugar in my tea. I don't want sugar in my tea." And that was the first time that they'd said that in all the years. And I think, whether it's that small comment, the confidence to say that, or whether it's doing something in your street, in your town, like, Lorraine has done, or in our country on a larger scale, like the Three Nations Dementia Working Group is doing. The stories that we hear of the really small things that make a difference are really, really important. Next slide, please. So what's most important and the common denominator across all of the Deep network, and I think probably as individuals and so many more groups and organisations country, are the Deep values, which I'm sure you will recognize, I don't think there's anything kind of, you know, rocket science in this. And it's basically about, you know, hear us, see us and join us, and that together we can really make that change. You know, our voices together in unity, whether it's well, no matter what group you belong to, what organization you belong to, let's work together. And the opportunity for people to have a voice and to share their voices as well, and respect and valuing of each other, and as organizations and like conference organizers, where you're asking people to share their voices, you know, don't undervalue the effort that it takes for people to be able to do that, and show that you value their contributions by, you know, being very thorough in the way you support someone to take part. Lorraine and Alison, have you got anything to say about the deep values?
Yeah, and I think you've said it all. I think it's respect, you know, it's listening, it's support, it's see us, hear us, you know. And as I say, you know, my main mentor, my main cry is, you know, is don't presume you know what I need or want, ask me. You know, and it very much indeed gives you the power to be able to say that. And as you say, even if it is as simple as, like, I don't want sugar in my tea, or something bigger than that, then that's brilliant.
I think the most basic part of, or the most basic and valuable part of the Deep Network is a safe space.
It is very much so.
You're diagnosed with dementia and you realise that you actually make mistakes. You say the wrong things, you forget words, you get confused. You know, even if it's only briefly, in my case, it's not advanced, but I can become confused, or I can word finding difficulties. And that's embarrassing when you're in a group of people without dementia who don't understand. Whereas a group, a deep group, is a group of people that understand totally. There's not, they're non-judgmental, there's no comments made. It's a safe space.
Yeah, and you don't have to explain yourself. You know, you don't have, there's no excuses needed.
Which I think leads us beautifully onto the next film, which is all
you
about
see, we knew that.
You knew that. All planned.
If I don't belong, then I cease to be me, locked inside a silent world of fading memories. But when I belong, I have a purpose to carry on, with peers and friends, a group, not just one. When you know someone cares and welcomes you without rules, then you forget about dementia. Dementia's just for fools.
With my hand in my heart, that within half an hour of being in that room, I was given hope. You know, I sort of felt I could still live here, that I could still contribute to things. It was still okay to laugh and to sort of have a bit of a crack, as we would say over here. You know, it was, and that was okay. And it also was okay to cry.
I'm just so grateful for being part of this work, because it has been probably the single most impactful thing that I have been involved in.
They had answers to questions that have been going around in my head. I had a family. But that's really important.
Next slide, please. Thank you. So another being entertained by Chris Norris there. So I think that it's incredibly powerful, the words from Drianne there. So thank you, Drianne, for that. But I think that in bucket loads, again, that shows how much it means to people to be part of their groups and to be part of a bigger network. Got anything to add, Alison and Lorraine?
No, again, you know, it sums it up absolutely beautifully, you know, and it's just, every time I watch the films, it's amazing how they still get you every single time and get you at a different level. You know, and and Drianne's bit of poetry sort of at the beginning, you know, that dementia is for fools, you know, and you're together not as one but as a group, and friendships are formed, and genuine friendships are formed.
I totally agree. I mean, for Drianne, I'd only ever met Drianne a couple of times. She had a problem that she needed help with, and Rachel said, ask Lorraine. And me being me, I hate injustice. I'm passionate about injustice. And
we know. In a nice way.
Yes, in a nice way. And I fought her corner for her. And the deep groups make you feel, they do give you confidence. I have so much confidence when I go to my Thursday group. I flourish. And people are grateful. They're really grateful. They keep saying things like, I couldn't do without you, Lorraine, and oh, you're such a big help. And how do you know so much? And that's just amazing, because when you get dementia, you become very discouraged. And you start saying, I'm stupid, I can't do anything. And then people tell you you can, and you're making a difference. And that's great for my mental health. It really is.
Absolutely. And I think there was a question in the chat box I didn't see in full, but I'm guessing it's about activism and about those opportunities to be involved in influencing attitudes, services and policies that affect all of our lives. And again, you know, going back to that story about Drianne and the injustice, you know, by showing and telling those stories about what we've done to challenge, is just so important that everyone hears about those kind of stories. So do you want to just tell briefly the story about the stair lift?
Yeah, basically Drianne ordered a stair lift, and it was a very expensive one, and it had to go around a corner. They did not explain it to her properly. They only showed her pictures. They didn't give her an example of what it would actually look like in situ. And when she got it, she described it as a snake. The track that ran up the stairs was like a huge snake to her. And she's phobic about snakes. And she couldn't use it. She actually had to move out for a couple of days because she couldn't cope with it. So she had this disagreement with the supplier from the company, and they said they weren't really doing about it, and there was a whole lot. And basically I wrote a letter and saying because Drianne had dementia, they should have taken certain steps as duty of care to ensure Drianne knew exactly what she was getting. And that, you know, she wasn't paying for it. Basically, they could come and take it away, and they took it away, and they haven't pursued her any further.
So, I know, but initially, Lorraine, they were only giving her back like a fraction of what it was she had paid, and said that's all she was entitled to until you got involved, and it was very successfully resolved.
She paid about 12 or 14,000 for it, and they were only going to give her 2,000 back. So yeah, we got that sorted.
We could go to the next slide as well, and I think that a lot of what's happening within the groups is kind of challenging that traditional offer, where I guess it's the professionals that have got the solutions. And I remember one facilitator coming to me saying that she was also a dementia support worker in her role, and she came out of the meetings as having a long list of things to do. And we talked through how she might leave that kind of role at the door and actually pass on the list to other people within the group. And she said that once she took away that sense of she had to have the answers and the solutions for everything and let the group find the solutions, it became a whole different group altogether. If we could go on to the into the next slide, which is a film which is about peer support, and this is thanks to our good friend Franny, who is on this film. Thank you.
And it is through this peer support that you gain strength and knowledge about how you can live your best possible life as you go through this. And I think without it, I would have floundered very early on and been a really miserable sort of soul. And it's taking me to places I'd never been, and I've met people from all sorts of walks of life. And it's been a huge eye-opener, and we just share things and help each other along. And it's absolutely heartwarming, and it's made all the difference to my life. It's been probably one of the best times of my life. You know, I wouldn't really want to change anything now.
And the next slide, please. Sorry, I think that's the next slide, James. That's it. Thank you. I mean, that's an incredibly powerful statement from Franny, isn't it? The best time of her life. And, you know, we frequently hear from people saying that, you know, what the positives of what a diagnosis of dementia give to people, don't we?
Yeah, I don't think anybody who hasn't got a dementia diagnosis would just not get it. You know, when you say you really wouldn't change it, you know, because you're living a different type of life, and a life that sort of has had tweaks and a bit more support in certain places and whatever. But I'm having the best time. And as I say, being given a diagnosis of dementia, you sort of think, how can somebody say that? You know, they're obviously spoofing, but honestly, my hand and my heart, it's the truth.
Yeah, I agree. It's the truth. I have a whole new life. Since I got the network, totally different. You know, otherwise, I look at my calendar for the week, and it's full of things that have been brought about through the network. Sometimes it's like, I mean, Alison and I get involved in research. You know, we've got the Deep Evaluation Project, which is about the funding for innovations in dementia and the Deep Network. I'm involved with York University, involved with NatWest research. You know, we're involved in so many things, and every week there are at least 2 or 3 things in my calendar that are involved with dementia. I mean, this week alone, I think I've got 5. I'm going out this afternoon with Dementia Friendly Darlington coordinator, and we're doing a walkthrough of the social prescribers building to make it dementia friendly. All these things, they've just changed my life.
But they're meaningful things as well. You know, they're things that you want to be involved in, and things that give you a purpose. And I think Lorraine had said it earlier, you know, when you get a dementia diagnosis, I felt my life was over. I felt I had nothing to contribute to anything ever again. And I genuinely felt that that was the case. And just having stuff that is meaningful and isn't a tick box, and stuff that you can say is actually making a difference, and that your opinion is valued and what you're saying is listened to, you know, it says it all.
Yeah, Alison summed it up there. We make a difference.
Yeah, and I think sharing, you know, the difference that you make, again, you know, inspirational. It's become a bit of a mantra that the kind of the whole share, learning and support, because we recognise that everybody needs support to be able to do this kind of stuff. And and it's exhausting, really. But actually, we learn so much from each other. If we go to the next slide, please, James. So there was a question about, you know, how to become. So the next slide, please. There was a question about how to become part of the Deep Network. Well, you can join as a group, and so I absolutely, if you want to form a group or you're part of a group, check it against the Deep values. As an individual, we don't have individual membership, but I think the Deep values can absolutely be your grassroots at which you start to do any piece of work that you're involved with. And as an organisation, you know, as I said before, it's about unity. We all need to work together to make sure that the Deep values are embedded in any kind of work or research, consultation, whatever that we do. So put the Deep values at the heart of all that you do, how you engage, who you are, and what you do. We're going to go on to the next film now, which is incredibly powerful piece of work that was done by the Kent groups called We All Stand Together, and it's about activism. And this was a part of a Ian Beasley banner project, and there's some of the unveiling of the banner that we did in Kent last year as well. So over to you, James.
We all stand together. Here we are, all standing together. We all stand together. Here we are, all standing together, in the teeth of this rough world's gale, working as one to fight against whatever threatens to make us fail. Here we are, we're all standing as one, as history's slow pit wheel turns, and we'll stand together till the work is done, and everyone lives and learns. Here we are, all shapes and sizes. The sunshine shines and the paths are found, and the seaside's new and the phoenix rises from this ancient Kentish ground. Here we are, please forget us not. We're a memorabilia of the powerful kind. We stand together where the struggle's hot, in the endless battle of the mind. We all stand together. Here we are, all standing together.
Wow, next slide, please. Always gives me goosebumps, that one. I'm aware that time is kind of really short on this, so I just wanted to say that to find out more about Deep, and the website is full of resources which are by and for people with dementia. If you're not aware of the Deep guides, which are created by groups within the network, they are such a valuable resource for getting going. There's information about all the Deep groups. There's latest news. So where possible, I try and put on kind of anything that's not in our Deep newsletter, but also things like, for example, tomorrow Scottish strategy is being released, so there's a link to the live launch of that. We produce a monthly newsletter, which I hope tries to encapsulate what's going on across this diverse network, and that's in print. And also we have Deepers doing the audio version of that, which has often got some entertaining added content as well, so I highly recommend listening to that. We often get approached for taking part opportunities as well for researchers and anything, and so if you do want to be involved in research, that is where all the listings that we get are posted. So we've got a template which contains all the information that people have told us that they need to know before they want to take part. So do keep a regular eye on that. Tend to try and post those taking part opportunities up on a Wednesday. And there's lots of films. So there's more, there are films from all the events that we did across the network last year. But also all the films that we're showing today are available on the website, but there's also a DVD which has got the films on it as well. So if you haven't received a copy of a DVD, the reason we produce a DVD is because so many people we know don't have access to the internet. And hopefully they've got a DVD player or they know someone who has. So we really wanted everybody with the network to be able to see the power of these films. So there are numerous resources to help to ensure everybody works well with people with dementia, and also that people with dementia know what they should expect from people who want to work with them as well. Anything else to add there, Lorraine and Alison?
No, I think you summed it up beautifully.
I'll send you a fiver.
I think you did. I would just encourage anybody to go on the Deep Network website.
Yeah.
Just click on it. There's so many opportunities to engage and be involved.
Yeah.
Even if you don't actually want to be involved with anything, just read it and you'll get so much information and support.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think all of the back copies of the newsletter are available on the website as well. Nigel's popped up again.
Well, it's just to say again, a lot of love in the chat box for you, and some specific requests for help, which I think James has covered by putting the necessary links into the chat box. But I'd like to say, is it okay if I say something? I am absolutely astounded on a daily basis by the depth of character of people living with dementia. I got a funny feeling it may very well be limitless. And we didn't invite, nor did we seek out dementia, but he came anyway with all his ghastly apparatus. But people stand tall, they stand measured, and they contribute their wholeness into the projects they undertake. Deep is a shining example of that. It represents the genuine voices of people living with dementia, and it can't be forgotten. Secondly, I think we underestimate the bravery of people with. We underestimate it on a daily basis. I chaired a thing at the Alzheimer's Society last week, and the bravery of people to stand up and talk about their conditions, how it affected them, and what they did to alleviate it was well, it was worth a prize on its own. That's all I had to say. Plus the fact, if you go into the chat box, there's some specific requests for help. Neil has asked if there's anybody in North Durham who could help him out to change the world. Really, he wants to, and that's what we do, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I can help with that one. I'm not far from North Durham.
There we are.
Excellent.
There we are.
It's all about those connections, isn't it?
His email is in the chat box if you have a look, Lorraine.
I've got it, thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm aware we're running out of time, and I've just got a couple of two more things that I'd like to share with you all. But if we quickly go on to the next slide. Ooh. So the next slide, which I think you'll all have access to, shows the links to the other projects that the Deep Network have been involved with through Innovations in Dementia. So,
Rachel, I'm just seeing a black screen.
Yeah, I am as well. But so anyway, we will, there we are. So there's Dementia Diaries, which is our audio and also now film recordings from people with dementia talking about anything and everything. There's a very kind of infamous Dementia Inquirers project, where it's people with dementia in the driving seat research, award winning. And there's also Dementia Creators, Dementia Tip Share sites as well. And they're all working with groups within the network. You can find links to that on the Deep website. I'd like to go on to the to the next slide and the next short film, which is all about fun, and it's the fun we have.
This is fun. This is what it's all about. It's about being ourselves. And I don't dress as a starfish all the time because I wouldn't be able to go to the toilet. But it's just a place where we can come, we can be ourselves, we can enjoy ourselves, we can laugh together. And we might be having a really bad day that day, but when we join these Zoom meetings, especially the Monday Funsters, we could be feeling quite down, but by the end of the Zoom meeting, we were all laughing.
I'm the natural me on here, and I'm not the natural me when I'm surrounded by serious adults. I like silly adults.
So when I found the deep groups, it really brought me out of myself. It made me realise that there were people out there living with dementia, having fun, enjoying themselves and living the best life that they could live. That's when I realised that there's so many things that I can still be doing. So why am I stopping doing all these things just because I've got a diagnosis?
So we have got this another slide, which I know will take us over time. So I don't know if you want to, Nigel, if you want us to stop or if we just carry on anyway. Let's carry on anyway. So James, if you could play the next film. Oh, I think that might be the yeah, James, that's sorry, it's the next one. There we are. Thanks.
It's very, very frightening when you're first diagnosed with dementia. I would like to tell people not to be scared. Strange things are happening. I'm frightened that I'm going to forget her smile, her voice, her touch, the smell of her, and I'm frightened that I'm going to forget that, and I don't ever want to forget that.
You fell, but I've got you. But I've got you. Everyone is a bit scared. A bit scared. Sometimes I feel lost. But we are less scared together. Together. Together.
This morning I lay silent and gathered myself. I'm on the path again, looking out over the sea and the fields and the glistening grassy slopes. And I am alive still.
Together.
Don't be scared.
Carry a notebook to write your thoughts, to rage and rampage and not be alone. The opportunity dementia brings, but still with a splendid smile of joy and peace, a curious opportunity to share ideas, knowledge, and simply to understand. When faced with objection and unmanageability, the immensity of humanity, the beauty and forgiveness shines through. The guardians, the spirits, in their communicative way, ask, do we remember that new chapter in our lives? Then something stirs, our guardian angel reminding us that after all, we're still the same person. Still a mum, fulfilling, communicating ideas, influencing, forgiving others with patience, respect and love. After all, we're still the same person.
Mighty oaks from small acorns grow. And just like that mighty oak, that is what deep is. If there's a tree struggling, other trees send out their roots and they weave and knit around the roots of the struggling tree to help support it and bring it back. And that's just what deep do. If one of us is struggling, we reach out and we weave together, and we are all unique and wonderful. But together we are a masterpiece.
I've got you. 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 I've got you, babe. I've got you. 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 I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you. I've got you. I've got you. I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you. I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you. I've got you. I've got you. I've got you.
I've got you. I've got you.
I've got you. I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you.
I got you.
I've got
I've got you.
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 Me, I've got you.
I've got you.
I've got you. I've got you. I've got you. We're all in this together. Excellent. Run it again. You want to, times you want to. Yeah, I've got you in it. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So I'm going to take the liberty of speaking over the credits to say thanks to everybody who has taken part today. Thanks to everybody who took part in the Deep 10th anniversary, which created those resources. And thank you to everybody, no matter how voices are within the groups or on the louder stage. You know, it's all so important that we talk about what matters to us. And thank you very much to, particularly to Alison and Lorraine, for coming along today and sharing your voices. Oh God, you could have rehearsed that. That was perfect timing. We go on to the next slide. The next slide. Yeah, Deep, thanks for hearing our voices, and you'll see that this is the template for the I Want to Speak Please cards, which are available on the Deep website, and you can use this template to create your own I Want to Speak Please cards in any language, or you can say anything you want to on those cards as well and print them out. And then the final slide is just the link to the Deep website. And just to thank so much, and I know Alison's got to go, so thank you ever so much, Alison, and we'll catch up later. But thank you for taking part today.
Bye, Alison.
Right, can I say thank you very much, ladies? Absolutely brilliant, wonderful. Can I remind and thank the audience for tuning in today, and remind you that this webinar will be on the website sometime the end of this week, beginning of next week, and we'll be back here in a fortnight. Have a safe day, everybody, and remember, stay hydrated. Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.